No checklist completed is going to save you. No bucket list is going to save you. No amount of blood, sweat, and tears that you've poured out in your life is going to save you. No amount of cash or worldly possessions is going to save you. You can't take it with you. You'll be dead. Buddha can't save you. Gandhi can't enlighten you. The Pope can't absolve your sins. The saints can't pray you into eternal life. Muhammad can't fix you. Allah isn't able. No president, no legislation, no Supreme Court justice, no state or nation or leader or celebrity. No one can save you because there is salvation in no one else.
That is correct, bearded Bible thinker here. Hey, Daniel chapter 4, beginning in verse 33 says, "Immediately the word concerning Nebuchadnezzar was accomplished, and he was driven away from mankind and began eating grass like cattle. And his body was drenched with the dew of heaven until his hair had grown like eagle's feathers and his nails like bird's claws. But at the end of those days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up my eyes toward heaven, and my knowledge returned to me. And I blessed the Most High and praised and honored him who lives forever. For his dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom endures from generation to generation. And all the inhabitants of the earth are accounted as nothing. But he does according to his will in the host of heaven and among the inhabitants of earth. And no one can strike against his hand or say to him, 'What have you done?' At that time my knowledge returned to me, and my majesty and splendor were returned to me for the glory of my kingdom. And my high officials and my nobles began seeking me out, so I was reestablished in my kingdom, and extraordinary greatness was added to me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise, exalt, and honor the King of heaven, for all his works are true, and his ways just, and he is able to humble those who walk in pride." Hey, everybody. So welcome again to another episode of the Bearded Bible Thinker podcast. This is going to be a quick one. I promise this time I have to get home to Mama and the boys. So this is not going to be incredibly long. I just got back a few days ago from the G3 National Conference. That is what I'm going to talk about today. The G3 National Conference was great. I had a lot of fun. It was our first G3 National Conference, our first G3 conference at all. And so it was a new experience. Donna and I have gone to a Ligonier conference, national conference in 2021. That was awesome. Got a lot out of that and was really encouraged by it. We've gone to a couple of different founders conferences with our sons. And that's been wonderful. So this was our first G3 conference, though, and it was great. As you can see by the shirt, sovereignty of God was a major theme. God is sovereign. Hello, Bible dingers. I was able to meet the Bible Dingers, which is another podcast, YouTube channel. Those guys do good work. And so anyway, I was able to talk with them, talk with a whole lot of other people. It was really a different feel. The G3 podcast was a different feel for me than the other ones. And I think probably in part because I was, honestly, the first time that I saw some of these guys whom I've look up to and on a preaching level, for instance, the Ligonier conference was the first time that I went to any major conference like this, and I saw Steve Lawson there. Steve Lawson, if you haven't been around long enough to hear me say this with the podcast, then Steve Lawson is my favorite not dead preacher. I love his preaching. He's incredibly talented and gifted, and God has given him an incredible gift for preaching. And so, anyway, the first time I heard him live, heard him was in the room, was the Ligonier Conference of 2021. Yeah, in March of 2021. I think it was March. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Why do you care what month it was, right? But it was in the springtime. There we go. That covered it, of 2021, and heard him live, and that was really great. But I think, like, back then, the focus that I had was probably, oh my gosh, I'm here. Which, borderline idolatry, I suppose. I think this time that was a little bit different. Like, I knew going in, there were certainly people that that fit that same sort of bill, like people that I hadn't heard live, that I got to see for the first time in a live setting, or meet even, or be around, and yet it was a different feel. Like, these guys, I think in the G3 conference, like when I went to Ligonier, again, some of this could have been my mentality, right? But when I went to Ligonier, one of the things that I can look back on and see is that there was a sense of, like you went to a Bulls game, right? And you're watching Michael Jordan. This was back when the Bulls meant something, and the NBA meant something. Now it's just another wonderful place to be preached at by the world about woke things. But back when it's like, okay, for you young kids, okay, it's like being at a LeBron game, and you see all of the amazing things. Oh, he had a great game, and then you see them at a distance, and oh my goodness, there he is. But there's not really any. If there is any interaction, it'll be like maybe LeBron signed your shoes or something, or there's an autograph, and that's it. Well, that's kind of the way that the Ligonier conference was for me. It was like you might get a chance to interact with one of these guys, but it's going to be pretty rare, and and it'll be probably pretty brief. The G3 conference was not like that. And I'm not attempting to say something negatively about the Ligonier conference. We thoroughly enjoyed that, and I would go back. I really liked it. The G3 conference, however, it just worked out differently. Like, those guys, from Paul Washer to Vodi Bakum, all the guys, Phil Johnson, Daryl Harrison, Virgil Walker, all of those guys who were there were just out and about, walking around, hanging out with people, talking. And not the whole time, of course, but I mean, I wasn't there the whole time for every single thing either. So it really was a different sort of feel in that sense. Like, everyone was really approachable. There were a lot of podcasters, YouTubers, influencers in some way, shape, or form, who weren't necessarily headliners or part of the conference, whom I saw. I saw people who have teaching series on AGTV, which is something that we take in at home. I saw people who were interviewed for the American Gospel documentary, the original one, and just there taking it in, not there in any sort of official capacity. So it was kind of neat. It was kind of neat to see all of these people who you don't know, but you've seen before. Or maybe you've listened to them online, or maybe you watch their YouTube channel, or obviously all the way up to the speakers who were there, all in one place, coming together, over 8,000 people strong, there to just bask in the truth that is the sovereignty of God. And so really just appreciated the things that were said, a lot of the teaching that there was. There's some, perhaps the biggest news, though, perhaps the biggest thing that came out of it, unfortunately, um, you know what? I won't say unfortunately, because God is obviously was sovereign over that as well. But the biggest news that came out of it was the bomb threat thing. Um, and I'll just tell you really quickly what our experience was, or my experience. Donna was right there with me, so I'm sure she'd say the same stuff. But we were the evening went Vodi Bakum preached, and then Paul Washer preached, and then there was a decent little break there for like bookstore time or whatever people wanted to do. And then there was going to be a showing of The Essential Church, this documentary. And at the Essential Church documentary showing, Donna and I were going to take that in. There were some people who were just going back to their hotels and that sort of thing. It's just understandable. By the time you get to that, so that showing wasn't going to start until 8:00 p.m. The documentary's a couple hours or more, right? So it makes a long day incredibly long. So you really have to want to be there for that at that point. But Donna and I wanted to be there. We weren't able to see it yet, and I really wanted to see this documentary. Because despite my longing for it to come to our area, it just didn't happen. And so I wanted to watch it and check it out. And we were waiting there, we were toward the back of the main hall there in the GICC. And so toward the back of the building, and all of a sudden Donna heard some commotion up there. I really wasn't paying attention to up there at the time toward the front, but apparently a guy comes out on the stage and stomps or something like that, and she heard him yell something or say something really loudly, and then you begin to see people shuffle toward the exits of the big room, and then obviously to the outdoors, right? So apparently what happened is there was a man who, so let me back up. First, what we thought, so we heard bomb threat. And to which, quite honestly, the first reaction that I had was figures. Because this group of folks at G3 is not a liked group of folks, and I say that with respect to the world, right? That what I mean by that is that the G3, some of the people that they platformed at this convention, as well as, I mean, frankly, the YouTubers that were there, all of the people that were there that agree with these guys on so many things. There are people who are very blatant and obvious and quick to talk about the LGBT movement, the sexual revolution that is going on in our nation, that are very quick to talk about CRT and how terrible some of those things are. The influence of the world, like, this is a crowd that would name names. Let me just say it that way, I guess. And so it really wasn't a surprise to me that something like this would happen. So it's not a huge surprise that this kind of thing would happen at a place like this or in an event like this. So my first instinct is, okay, all right, well, let's just go. And so we shuffle out the door with everyone else. The police arrive, and they're kind of making everyone do that anyway after we were already outside. So we get outside, and everyone else began to show up outside. So the building is getting cleared out. But apparently what actually happened was, so this is just based on an article that I read from protestia.com, which if you haven't if you don't know anything about that website, go check it out. It's a good spot to get some news for the Christian, about the Christian world and things that happen. But Protestia article that I read, apparently there are, what happened was a gentleman who was an attendee at the conference, a paid attendee at the conference, had was triggered, and not in the woke, stupid way that people can be triggered, but in a like a legitimate, like PTSD triggered way. It was triggered by a person that he saw, and got up on the stage and said, "There's a bomb in the building," and so that's. Again, that's just me reading an article. I don't know. There's not been an official statement that I have laid my eyes on. Not saying there isn't one yet, but there isn't an official statement that I've received from G3 or anything like that yet. But that is really unfortunate. And what a sad thing that is. I feel bad for him because, like, just at some level, like, I get it. There are things that I, my wife and I both have our eyes open, her more than me, actually, with, certain things that might be going on in life that might be a trigger for me with similar kinds of stuff. And I think one of those is even times of year, Veterans Days, and things like that. So I get how that is a possibility, and that could happen. If that is what happened, then man, I feel like, pray for this brother, because it actually is something that just happens to you. And it, in some respect, your mental status is shifted, and you're no longer in complete control of what's going on, and like, you snap a little bit. And so just pray for this brother, and pray that this gets worked out, and that maybe if he hadn't reached out for help or aid in the past for this thing, that he does that, and that God blesses that. It was encouraging to see, not that they have all the control over it in the world, because this was a very public event and lots of people were there. But according to the article that I read, G3 folks are not going to press charges. But again, that doesn't necessarily matter, because there are like 8,000 people that weren't part of the G3 leadership that were around or there or something. But it really is an unfortunate thing. But one of the good things that did come out of it, there's always are good things that come from difficult or hard things. And one of the really cool things that came out of it is this. I don't know if you've seen, but it is all over the place as of late, the videos that came from what followed. So there was, all that anybody knew at the time is that there was a bomb threat, and everyone went out of the building. Some of us were lingering there for a while, and by there I mean in the parking lot area. Our hotel was right next to it. I mean, I didn't think about it real hard at first. I was just trying to kind of register what was going on. But I realistically, if there's a bomb threat, even if it's a joke or whatever, I mean, per protocol, they're going to clear the building, and they're going to search the entire building once or twice even, or whatever, sweep it and make sure that there's nothing to it. They have to do that. So in retrospect, it's like, as soon as we heard that there was a bomb threat and people were getting kicked out of the joint for the moment, I should have just gone to the hotel, like, right away. There's no reason to linger. They're not going to go, false alarm. They're going to check it all, right? So anyway, that is what was going on, and we were in the parking lot and talking to some people. Then we made our way into the hotel that we stayed at, and on providentially, the hotel that we picked happened to be the same hotel that all of the speakers were housed in. And so we walked into the lobby, and all of these folks were in the lobby just hanging out. Now, I've had my own bouts with, we'll say, PTSD-ish things, and so I wasn't at that point. I wasn't interested in hanging out in the lobby at the time. I think even as we were walking, I don't know if Donna even realizes what I was doing, but as I look back, as we were walking from the convention center to our hotel, there was one point when she was walking and she was going to go around me to the right. Well, that's where the building was, and I immediately kind of got on the other side of her just instinctively and put her on the other side so that I was between her and the building. And so like my mind was elsewhere, long story short. And so we passed through and went up to our room. Well, maybe even moments after we got on the elevator and left, but certainly within minutes after we went upstairs, the place broke out in song. The whole lobby in this it was a Marriott hotel. The whole lobby of the hotel was erupted in hymns being sung to God, and so that's the thing that's floating around the internet. I'm not going to worry about showing you. There are several places you can look on Twitter or Facebook, I'm sure at this point, or YouTube, and see songs being sung. But it just was such a cool moment to see caught on camera. To see a whole bunch of folks after this bomb threat roll up in a lobby of the hotel, spending time together, talking, and all of a sudden get everyone's attention, and then they break out into song praising God, despite for all they knew. This is what makes it cool. For all they knew, everyone in there, this was a legitimate threat, and there was a bomb in the building. Nobody knew at the time. So what you had is these folks all get together in a hotel, not knowing what the deal was, not knowing anything that was going on. Presumably, there's possible bomb in the next building over. There's basically a driveway between these two buildings, the hotel and the convention center, and it was just this amazing moment, this display that not only do these people preach and teach and come to listen to teaching regarding the sovereignty of God, his control of every single thing, that there are no maverick molecules, as RC would say. Not only did everyone show up for that, not only did these people preach and proclaim that truth, but they truly believe that truth. And in that instance, that they were there was still the presence of mind, not only to not necessarily fear or be scared of a bomb going off, but there was also this feeling that washed over the place that just said, you know what, God is sovereign. What have we been saying this whole time? And so it just was a really cool moment. So to sum up things here, I don't just want to talk about that. The conference was great in and of itself. We had a lot of fun. Again, our first time, it was an atmosphere of networking and meeting people, and I didn't expect that. By and large, I'm kind of an introvert. Like, I enjoy being in my little office here, and I certainly enjoy the people that I minister to, but But if you were to put me in a crowd of 8,000 people, I'm almost certainly going to sit in a corner and take in the teaching and not talk to anyone the whole time. But that didn't happen. For whatever reason, there's just an air of uh, uh, friendship, familial identity among God's children. And so Donna and I met several people along the way. We met several folks who were just like-minded, several folks who I've heard people tell their gospel story, so that they're coming to Christ stories. And some folks, naturally, you run into folks who are going to talk to you about how, like, yeah, I've been a Christian for a long time, but I was under these other influences, and now, like, God has brought me into this, like, where I'm actually reading the scriptures and studying the scriptures. And so here I am at G3 at this Reformation kind of thinking conference. And so there was a lot of that. I was able to run into the one fan of the Bearded Bible Thinker podcast, and I'm joking, obviously, but it was kind of neat. I probably kind of awkward for all of us involved, because I was not expecting anyone to recognize that who I was, but was able to meet some fans from Louisiana. So hi to Louisiana, and I hope that you enjoyed the conference as well. It was a lot of fun for us. So able to do that. I was able to meet a lot of folks and talk with them, like able to meet Phil Johnson, talk with him for a few minutes, and that was cool. Thank him for their ministry. I was able to talk with one of my favorite moments, actually, was that I was able to talk and though it was fairly brief, still was able to talk and converse with Daryl Harrison of the Just Thinking podcast, and talk to him about some of the struggles that we've been having with our own affiliations as a church body here. So that was good to be able to do that and thank them for their ministry and the influence that they've had, not only on me and my thinking, but just in general, the influence and the help that they've been for folks like me, for pastors and church leaders, and really just lay people, even who are having to walk through this whole thing, who never thought about or recognized wokeness and those kinds of things before. So it was helpful to see them. I'm thankful that I got to meet. So we got to meet Vody again and talk with him for a few minutes. It was really funny because Donna and I, on the way home, I texted our sons. I said that I summed it up to them. Honestly, if I'm being real, to make them jealous a little bit, but I summed it up a little bit to them, and I said that Paul Washer. So when we first showed up, Donna and I first rolled in that night. It was Wednesday night before. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday was the conference, and we rolled in and we're checking into the hotel. Our flight arrived at around 11 on Wednesday night. And so it's like 11, we're at the hotel. It's 11:10. It's 11:15. It's 11:30. We're waiting around, right, for our room, because there like tons and tons of people. They've double booked some things, and I don't understand how that happens, but I'm not going to presume to be a hotel manager, so I don't know. But they had double booked some things, and they were full or whatever. So they're trying to figure out how to make our room work that we reserved in May. We're sitting in the lobby, Donna and I, just waiting for them to do their thing. And all of a sudden, Donna looks at me and she's like, "Hey, is that Paul Washer over there? I think that's Paul Washer. Is that Paul Washer?" And so Paul Washer is sitting, the short version, sitting like 30 or 40 feet away from us, talking with some people. And it looked like kind of pouring into them, discipling them a little bit. I don't know the story there. Obviously, I wasn't eavesdropping, um, but I don't know. He was very likely had already been involved in a day of pre-conference and talking with people. And here it is, pretty much midnight. And Paul Washer's sitting in the lobby of the hotel, pouring into people. And then our room is ready. So I go get the keys, come back over to Donna. We begin to stand up and get our luggage and stuff. Right at the same time, they were finishing up their conversation. So Paul Washer turns around, and you kind of have to walk together in the same way to get to the elevators. And so he turns around and comes over, and at midnight, after wasting himself away, serving and being around people, he comes over with a smile on his face and puts his hand out and shakes our hands and says, "Hi, I'm Paul," in kind of his little Paul Washer way. And so we're able to meet him and chat and ride up the elevator. As he was going to his room, told me that his wife was going to kill him because he was supposed to just go to the hotel and get some rest. And he went to the hotel and was talking and mingling and stuff with people for hours. So the struggle is real, even for P-Dub. And so, so we started our time, riding up the elevator with Paul Washer and talking with him. And our time ended that Saturday going down an elevator with Vodi Balcom and talking with him. So it was a fun time. It was a unique experience to end up at the same hotel that the speakers were at. I don't know if that'll ever happen again, but that was kind of cool because we run into them a lot. I saw and met Justin Peters and a whole host of people. It was great. So, but I think that the main things that I took away from the conference wasn't that. It wasn't that got to see those specific people. It wasn't that they preached so well, even though dynamite, there was a lot of that. There were a lot of real bombs getting dropped in the place that had nothing to do with any threats. So that stuff was really well. I think that honestly, the thing to me that was most beneficial, that stuck out to me most, and I haven't put tons of thought into this. It might maybe change. I don't know. But as it sits right now, as I'm recording this, the main thing that I left with was, one of the things I always leave with, it's always an uplifting and amazing thing to be in a situation for a few days where you're reminded all over again, like Elijah in the desert or in the wilderness, like, man, you know what? Like, we're not alone. There is a large group of Christian men and women who are concerned with the same things that we're concerned with, who hold the same doctrines that we hold, at least closely, and who are just slugging it out with life on the regular, who care about the same God that we care about, who care about the same things in our culture that we care about, who are fighting against the same ideologies we're fighting against. And it makes you leave going back to, and in our case, going back to your little neck of the woods, right? Or prairie, neck of the prairie. I don't know is that a thing? Neck of the prairie? I don't think so. But our little house on the prairie. Hey, let's say it that way. It helps us come back and with like this fuller knowledge of, or reminder of the fact that, man, we are not alone. That like there are a lot of like-minded Christian people who are in the fight together. against our godless culture and attempting to persuade and preach the gospel of Christ. And I come home to, like everyone else, we're going to come home to struggles. Like life is still life. People are still struggling. There's still a fight to be fought and a race to finish running. And so it's helpful though to go and for us, since I'm the main preacher here at Hillside, I'm consistently kind of pouring out, right? And so when I go to things like this, I get poured into. I get to swap roles, and that's helpful for me just personally to refresh and that sort of thing. But at the same time, like coming back here, you come back with more energy, like reminded that this is a grand race that a whole group of people are running together, and we're in lockstep. Despite our differences and our different struggles and places that we maybe disagree a little bit or whatever, those who are conservative, Bible-believing, God-fearing Christian people are in lockstep, and may we continue to proclaim the gospel and not be ashamed of it, and to remember that yes, God is sovereign, that He is in control, even in that comment section of YouTube. He is in control. And so I'm thankful for that truth. I'm thankful that it is the truth. I'm thankful that it is an immutable truth, and that it's always been true, that it always will be true. I'm thankful that so long ago, a king like Nebuchadnezzar, who is the most powerful human on the face of the earth, could be shown at the drop of a hat, just at the whim of our great God, that God is indeed God. And that like Nebuchadnezzar, then I hope that you and I can together praise God, that we can lift His name up on a regular basis, despite whatever we might be going through. May we be reminded of His sovereignty, of His control, of His providence, His providential action in our lives, all around us, all the time. And at the end of the day, may we echo with Nebuchadnezzar and say, now I praise, exalt, and honor the King of heaven, for all His works are true and His ways just, and He is able to humble those who walk in pride. Hey, until next time, read your Bible, be a godly person, strive for holiness, and I'll talk to you next time. This was just supposed to be a brief recap, and it's almost been 40 minutes. So hi again to Louisiana and anyone else out there who actually watches this thing, and we'll talk to you next time.